Airports are supposed to be gateways of opportunity, but for Marcus Hayes, this day felt more like a trial. He had just returned from a global summit in Geneva, his head still heavy with the weight of speeches about equality, progress, and diplomacy. Yet the moment he stepped into his own country's airport, he was met with a chilling reminder that prejudice does not check its baggage. "Hey you, stop right there." The voice was sharp, laced with authority and irritation. Marcus froze mid-step. A uniformed officer was glaring at him, eyes narrowed, hand hovering over his holster. Travelers nearby slowed down, sensing trouble. "You can't be wandering in here like you own the place," the officer barked. "Show me your ID now." Marcus adjusted his posture, keeping calm. Years of diplomatic training had taught him that anger was a weapon best saved for the right moment. But still, the sting of being singled out burned deep. He wasn't dressed poorly. His tailored suit was pressed, his briefcase polished. But to the officer, none of that mattered. "Sir," Marcus began carefully, "I'm simply heading to baggage claim. I have the documents." "Don't talk back to me," the officer snapped. "I know your type, always trying to sneak around. Let's see your papers before I haul you into secondary inspection." Murmurs spread among the travelers gathering nearby. Some whispered, some pointed. The humiliation was heavy, and Marcus could feel every set of eyes branding him guilty without reason. The irony wasn't lost on him. He had just spoken at a summit about dignity and respect, only to be stripped of it the moment he returned home. With deliberate calm, Marcus opened his briefcase. The officer leaned closer, ready to snatch whatever excuse Marcus handed over. But when Marcus pulled out a dark blue booklet and held it high, the officer's face drained of color. A diplomatic passport. The gold-embossed seal gleamed under the fluorescent lights. The words "Diplomatic Passport of the United States of America" screamed louder than Marcus ever could. Gasps echoed. Phones went up, recording. The officer's hand twitched, then dropped from his holster. His booming voice was suddenly gone, replaced by a stammer. Marcus's gaze sharpened. "Is this how you greet your diplomats? By shouting at them in front of a crowd? By assuming guilt before truth?" The officer's lips moved, but no sound came. The tables had turned, and now every eye in the terminal was on him. Marcus didn't stop there. "You see, officer, I represent this country on the world stage. I defend its values. And yet, here at home, I am treated like a criminal, by the very people meant to uphold justice." The irony was brutal, and the crowd knew it. A few clapped softly. Others shook their heads at the officer, disgust clear on their faces. The officer muttered, I didn't know." "That," Marcus cut in, his voice firm, "is the problem." The humiliation was no longer Marcus's burden. It was the officer's. And justice had been served in the most public way possible. But just when Marcus thought the ordeal was over, the true drama began. As he walked toward baggage claim, still holding the passport, a woman in a sleek black suit intercepted him. Her badge flashed quickly. Homeland Security. "Ambassador Hayes," she said, her tone smooth but urgent. "We need to speak immediately." Marcus frowned. "About what?" "Not here," she whispered, glancing at the crowd. "There's been a breach." Her words sent a chill down his spine. She guided him to a secure room away from the prying eyes and murmurs. Inside, she shut the door, her face grave. "We've intercepted intelligence," she said. "Your name came up on a watch list." Marcus's stomach dropped. "That's impossible." She slid a file across the table. Inside were classified documents. His name stamped across reports linking him to suspicious financial activity overseas, fake transfers, fabricated accounts, a smear campaign, carefully crafted to frame him as a corrupt diplomat. Marcus gripped the folder, his pulse quickening. The injustice at the terminal was just the surface. This was a knife aimed at his career, his reputation, his very identity. He thought of the officer's aggression, the way it had escalated so quickly. What if it hadn't been a coincidence? What if the shouting, the humiliation, was the first move in a larger plan to discredit him? The woman leaned forward. "Ambassador, someone powerful wants you out of the picture. We don't know how far this goes. But if this file leaks, your passport won't save you. Not even your title will." Marcus's throat tightened. He had been underestimated his entire life. forced to prove his worth in the face of prejudice. But this was different. This wasn't just about dignity. This was about survival. He closed the file slowly, his mind racing. Who put my name here? The woman's eyes darkened. That's what we need you to find out, but be careful. The enemy isn't outside this country. It's much closer than you think. Marcus sat back, the weight of her words pressing down on him. The dramatic irony was unbearable. He had just put an arrogant officer in his place, only to realize he might now be the target of something far more dangerous. He looked down at the passport still in his hand, a symbol of power, of protection. Yet at that moment it felt fragile, almost meaningless. The underdog had risen, the arrogant had fallen, but the battle had only just begun. And as Marcus stepped out of that room, one truth gnawed at him. The real enemy was still waiting in the shadows. The story was far from over. If you're really enjoying this story, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification button so you never miss my latest uploads. Now, let's continue where we left off. When we last saw Marcus Hayes, a respected diplomat, he had just silenced a shouting airport officer by revealing his diplomatic passport. The tables turned, and the officer stood humiliated in front of the crowd. But just as Marcus thought the storm was over, Homeland Security pulled him aside and revealed something chilling. His name was on a secret watch list. Someone was framing him, and the threat wasn't foreign. It was coming from within his own country. Marcus barely slept that night. The file he'd been shown replayed in his mind. Fabricated accounts, suspicious transfers, lies designed to ruin him. He knew this wasn't random. Someone powerful wanted him out of the way. The next morning, he arrived at his office in the diplomatic corps, and already the whispers had begun. Colleagues who once greeted him warmly now glanced at him with suspicion. His assistant, nervous, handed him the morning paper. On the front page was his photo. Ambassador Hayes under investigation for overseas corruption. The smear campaign had begun. Marcus clenched the paper. He knew if he didn't act fast, his career and everything he stood for would be destroyed. The bitter irony cut deep. Just yesterday, he was lecturing the world on integrity, and today his own integrity was under attack. That evening, he met secretly with Agent Ramirez, the Homeland Security officer who had warned him. She slid a folder across the table. We traced the documents. Whoever framed you has access to restricted government databases. This isn't some outsider. This is an inside job. Marcus opened the file. His heart stopped. The name attached to the false reports was none other than Deputy Secretary Alan Briggs, a man Marcus once trusted, a man who smiled at every diplomatic dinner, shook his hand for the cameras, but who, behind closed doors, had always opposed his rise. Briggs, Marcus whispered, he's the one? Ramirez nodded grimly. He's threatened by you. You're the first black man to ever hold your position, and your success threatens the old power structures. He's betting this scandal will bury you. Marcus's chest tightened, but beneath the anger, determination burned. For years, people like Briggs underestimated him, treated him as less. But this time, Marcus wasn't going to just defend himself. He was going to expose the rot at the core. The following week, Briggs called a press conference parading evidence of Marcus's supposed misconduct. Cameras flashed. Briggs stood tall, his smugness evident as he spoke. We cannot allow corruption to infect our diplomatic ranks. No one is above the law. The irony was almost unbearable. Marcus, watching from the wings, knew it was time. He stepped onto the stage holding a USB drive. I agree, Marcus said, his voice carrying through the room. No one is above the law, not even Deputy Secretary Briggs. Gasps filled the air. Reporters scrambled. Briggs's smile faltered. Marcus plugged the USB into the projector. On the screen appeared security footage. Briggs meeting secretly with a defense contractor, exchanging envelopes, laughing about planting dirt on Marcus to secure his downfall. The evidence was undeniable. The room erupted in chaos. Reporters shouted questions, cameras zoomed in, microphones shoved forward. Briggs's face turned pale as security officers approached. Deputy Secretary Briggs, Marcus said firmly, you tried to destroy my career, my name, my life. But justice has a way of finding the truth, and today, it has found you. The crowd applauded, some standing to cheer. Briggs was escorted out in handcuffs, his arrogance crushed in the most public way possible. But Marcus didn't bask in the victory. He looked out at the flashing cameras, his voice steady but heavy with emotion. Every time prejudice blinds us, every time arrogance silences truth, we all lose. This fight was never just about me. It was about the kind of country we claim to be. A place of justice, a place of dignity. And today, we choose justice. The chamber erupted in applause. Marcus's name, once tied to scandal, was now tied to resilience. The man underestimated, humiliated, and framed had risen higher than ever before. Yet just as it seemed justice had been served, Marcus's phone buzzed. A new message appeared, no name, no number, just 6 words. Briggs was only the beginning, watch your back. Marcus's stomach dropped. The victory was real, but the war was far from over. Somewhere in the shadows, a larger conspiracy waited, one far more dangerous than Briggs alone. The underdog had won the battle, but the next fight promised to be darker, deadlier, and closer than he could ever imagine. Life lesson. Prejudice may underestimate you. Arrogance may try to silence you, but the truth, when fought for, will always shine through. Justice isn't just about one person's victory. It's about protecting the dignity of all. Quick question for you. If you were in Marcus's position, would you have stayed calm and gathered evidence or confronted Briggs the moment you suspected him? Comment your answer down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button so you never miss more powerful stories like this.